well, who is currently in jail, and she was convicted, and her convictions were upheld on appeal for facilitating the trafficking of underage women for Epstein. But all these other prominent people, up to now, it seems that it was distasteful and foolish that they associated with someone who, especially after he was already convicted of a crime, and they continued to do so for many years. But again, it appears, at least as of now, that these other prominent people have not engaged in any criminal behavior.
Thank you, Ross, for joining us, but don't go too far. We'll be back with you later. US President Donald Trump says Iran wants a deal rather than face US military action. He warned Tehran that time is running out on nuclear negotiations as a large US naval fleet gathers in the Gulf. Iran insists its missile and defense systems are non-negotiable and maintains its nuclear program is peaceful. Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi says talks are possible if based on mutual respect and trust. Trump says the US armada will remain in the region and stressed negotiations are ongoing, while Iranian protests continue with thousands reported killed in recent unrest. Listen in to what the US President Donald Trump had to say.
They were going to hang 837 people, and I told them, if you do it, you're going to pay a price like nobody's ever paid before. And they pulled back. I appreciated that. But a lot of people are being killed, so we'll see what happens. I can say this, they do want to make a deal.
We are now being joined by Ross Feingold again. Thank you so much for joining us back here. If Trump says Iran does want to make a deal, how much of that reflects genuine Iranian willingness versus US strategic messaging with military pressure?
At the moment, it's difficult to see what the deal would be. The United States and many other countries, frankly, they want or demand that Iran give up its nuclear research program. Iran says it's civilian and peaceful, and nobody believes them. It's clear that this program is designed to research and develop nuclear weapons. And that's why the United States joined Israel in bombing the Iranian nuclear facilities last year. So on that issue alone, there's clearly a huge gap between what Iran is willing to do and what the United States wants. Similarly, the issue is with its missile program as well. Iran has developed missiles that are not for its defense, but are actually for offensive purposes, and they've used those to attack Israel. And it's been a longstanding demand of the United States and its closest allies that Iran also give up that program. So those two issues alone show that there's a huge gap between the expectations of the United States and Iran. What's interesting here is whether or not the position of President Trump is that the current leadership needs to go, or is he, President Trump, saying, if we could reach a deal on your missile program, if we could reach a deal on your nuclear program, I don't care if you continue to run the country as a dictatorship, as this religious dictatorship. That part is a little bit unclear. We have the obvious recent example in Venezuela where the United States did forcibly remove the president of the country. On the other hand, the United States left Maduro's team in control of Venezuela for now. So one of the key things here that, frankly, at the moment is still a little bit unclear is, does the United States, does the Trump administration seek a regime change in Iran, or does it not?
And does linking a deal to Iran's nuclear program and protests make an agreement harder or easier?
Well, it probably makes it harder. It seems at the moment that despite the demands of the United States and its partners, including Europeans or the Gulf countries, that Iran bring to an end this nuclear program. For the current regime in Iran, this seems to be something they insist on continuing to do. And as long as they continue to insist on their nuclear program, then there is a risk not just of continued sanctions, but possibly additional military action, whether by Israel, the United States, or both of them working together. So as long as this regime stays in control, it seems that they will continue their nuclear program. I think that is a terribly stupid mistake on their part. They're hurting their own people because of the international sanctions that have been imposed on Iran over this issue. But again, as long as they stay in power, it seems that they think they need to have nuclear weapons, and they will pay the price, because if the United States and Israel come to believe that Iran is continuing to research and develop nuclear weapons, they will strike again.
And is Trump's claim that Iran wants a deal meant to open talks or increase pressure?
I think it's fair to say that Trump is willing to make a deal. Again, it's not clear if he wants the regime to go away or if he's agreeable to the regime staying in power as long as they give up their missile and nuclear weapons development programs. If it is the latter, if Trump is saying, I don't mind if the regime stays in power, but they need to give up the nuclear and missile research and development programs, then that's a huge opportunity for the regime, because it basically is opening a path where they can remain in power, and not just remain in power, but also really return to some level of normal interactions with the international community. So just for example, if the regime was to say today, we are giving up our nuclear program, or giving up our offensive missile program, we'll limit our research to defensive needs only, and we're willing to have international inspectors and transparency about this, then a number of countries will remove sanctions. The United States might also remove sanctions as well. So again, to be fair to President Trump, it does seem at the moment he's willing to make a deal, which might include letting the regime stay in power.
And talking of fair, Tehran insists negotiations must be fair and trustworthy between each of them, and not under threat. But the US is still building up their military forces. How tough for these conditions meeting each other?
Well, the Iranian regime is just not being realistic here, because there's a key point, which is if they continue to develop the nuclear weapons program, the United States and possibly Israel as well will use military force, and that's one of the reasons why President Trump has surged military assets nearby to Iran, because of the possibility that he will order the use of military force. This is not about having an equal or a fair negotiation, and that's just the reality of the situation. The United States is a major military power. Iran is dangerous, but they can't compete with the military power of the United States, and Israel potentially brings additional military power to the equation as well. So again, there seems to be a path for the Iranian regime to remain in power if they give up the missile program, give up the nuclear program, stop slaughtering their own people. And they're just being very, very foolish, as they have been for decades, with so many stupid decisions they made over the years to support terrorist groups around the region and try to develop nuclear weapons. So they have a chance here. President Trump is offering them a chance, and it's up to them to take it.
Thank you so much, Ross Feingold, for joining us here on NewsX World today. US President Donald Trump has endorsed Kevin Warsh as his pick